You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Bitcoin, Ether, Ripple, Litecoin, and more. Cryptocurrencies and other digital assets are taking the financial world by storm. This exploding market provides everything a savvy trader needs: volatility, volume, and liquidity. Provided you know how to find it. That's where we come in. Welcome to the Crypto Rundown. Each week, we'll break down the latest trading activity, trends, and developments on everything from coins to tokens, futures, and even OTC options. If it's moving the crypto markets, then you'll find it on the Crypto Rundown. This program is brought to you by Genesis Volatility, also known as GVol, home of institutional-grade crypto options analytics. Whether you're trading CeFi options or DeFi options, cryptocurrencies move. Use GVol Analytics to analyze implied volatility, model realized volatility, structure positions, and unlock alpha. For more information, visit gvol.io. That's GVOL.io. Now it's time to dive into the exploding world of cryptocurrencies and digital assets. It's time for the Crypto Rundown.
Everybody, that music means we are back once again with the Crypto Rundown, the program here on the Options Insider Radio Network, where we break down all of the action out there in the crypto hills. Going to talk the Bitcoin, the ETH, the spot, the futures, the options, the volume, the volatility, the unusual activity, and a whole bunch more. My name is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as, of course, from the ever-exciting Options Insider Radio Network. Of course, if you guys want get access to this show live, everything else we do throughout the week, exclusive content, and even giveaways. We're coming up on the June Pro Trading Crate giveaway, getting all that together for Thursday. Then, of course, you know where to go. Theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to begin that journey. And of course, if I sound a little bit under the weather today, it's because I am. The modern plague has finally caught up to me, so hopefully I will be, by next week's show, I will be raring to go yet again. But if you hear some coughing fits along the way, you know why. And joining me to help me get through this show today, our old friend, Mr. Bill Ulivieri, the principal over there at Cenacle Capital Management. Mr. Bill, welcome back to the show, sir.
Oh, Mark, thanks for having me. It's great to be with you.
I'm just going to mute myself for the next 45 minutes. You can just talk. How's that sound?
Okay. Do I have to wear a mask?
I think you're safe. I think you're safe. We're good. All right. As we keep on rolling, listeners, right on into the Bitcoin Breakdown.
It's time to explore the latest trending activity, trends, and developments across the world's leading crypto market. It's time for the Bitcoin Breakdown.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Bitcoin Breakdown, the portion of the show where we break down all the action in the world's leading digital asset. That is, of course, Bitcoin. And we were off last week for the July 4th holiday, so we're coming back on 2 weeks ago now from our last show. Poor crypto keeps getting caught up in all the crazy holidays here. But on our last show, we were at about 20,886 in Bitcoin. Coming in today's show, about 20,575. Talking a little over $300 lower out there. Of course, in the interim, we have dipped a wee bit lower than that, got down to about 18,732. That was at the end of June. And looks like the high was a little bit north of 22,000, about 22,100. That was on July 7th. So interesting times to be watching the Bitcoin space. Of course, Mr. Bill last joined us about 2 months ago and later on in May. At the time, Bill, Bitcoin was hanging around, flirting with the 30K level. We're obviously below that now. But what are your thoughts on what we've been seeing out there in Bitcoin since your last appearance, sir?
Well, it certainly seems as though there is a lot of depression, right, in the concept of a crypto winter being upon us. On one hand, we have Bitcoin lower, we have all these other alternative tokens, trending lower. The uncertainty over the SEC, whether there's Bitcoin and then everything else is a security. We have the unwinding of all these cryptocurrencies from decentralized finance that blew up. So it's just a tough place to be right now. I mean, I think everybody's feeling the drain. I look at token after token after token, and I just ask myself, is this a thing? Is it just one more crazy token that's going to get annihilated, or do I just focus my energy on Bitcoin, right, which still has the first mover adoption, and for some reason, not for some reason, we know all the reasons why. It's the ultimate of the token. So we're in a really crazy space, crypto winter again. And I think we're probably near the end of it. And I'm excited for that because I'd like it when there's a positive vibe in this space.
Speaking of vibes, what are the clients saying to you right now? Are they coming to you saying, hey, this crypto winter thing, I'm spooked, let's get out of this? Are they maybe looking to double down at some of these lower levels? What are you hearing from the clients on the crypto front? All
right, from the clients, so it's two camps. One is they are already diversified personally in gold, silver, and real estate. So this part of their crypto that they allow us to manage, is it hurting them? Are they looking at it? Yes. Are they upset? Yeah, kind of. But they also see at the same time that gold exactly hasn't performed as planned for inflation hedge. Their real estate's done pretty well overall. So, they're kind of I'm not going to say they're taking one for the team. I'm just saying that they understand that, crypto does tend to be more volatile than gold. But then looking back, back in 2013, when we had a gold bear market that went from like 1,900 per ounce down to like 1,000. So it isn't that they're not sensitive to big swings. The people that invest with me they're big picture. They see what's going on with the EU. They see what's going on with the Japanese yen getting annihilated, the euro dollar getting annihilated, and other currency, the US dollar rallying. So I mean, it's kind of caught everybody off guard. This dollar rally has crushed a lot of assets. So I think once this is over, we're going to resume back on track and turn the ship around. But again, they're more big philosophical people. Like, they've seen communism, they've seen socialism, they've seen bad things happen overseas. And so they're in it for the long haul.
It's funny to hear you mention about just loading up on Bitcoin and forgetting the altcoin. And we'll get to this more in the altcoin universe. But you've always been the guy coming on here with a couple of cool altcoin in your back pocket every episode. And now it sounds like maybe you're looking at the big dog more these days, which is interesting, understandable maybe, given the environment that we're in, but certainly interesting nonetheless. Let's head on out to see what the market is giving us. And of course, all these analytics coming at you, courtesy of our friends over there at Genesis Volatility. gvol.io is the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires, listeners. They just got a brand new coat of paint. I'm still kind of navigating it and relearning it myself. There's so much more stuff they've just added there just in the last few weeks out there. So I've been kind of digging through it myself. So if you haven't kicked the tires yet at Genesis Volatility, really, what are you waiting for? Now is a good time. No better time than the present out there. gvol.io is the place to go. If you do that, you would see that the current average at the money Bitcoin volatility is trending lower yet again. 69 when we kicked off the show. It was 74.5 on our last show, so it has continued to trend lower ever since it had that spike back about a month ago. I said it then. I said Bitcoin vol is kind of like precious metals vol. It can spike, but it doesn't tend to maintain it very long. And That's pretty much what we've seen. We're pretty much right back down to where we were before all that aggressive sell-off really started popping things into high gear. BitVol, which is Simon Ho's measure of 30-day rolling Bitcoin vol, kind of like a Bitcoin VIX effectively. That was an 88 on our last show. Coming into today's show, 75.5. So that has also trended lower. Skew-wise, 30-20 skew, so all the options in the 30 to 20 delta range out there. If you don't know what that means, check out our Options Bootcamp, Options Playbook radio shows. They will explain a lot of that to you. Coming into today's show, we had a -4 on the skew, so still negative. It's been negative for quite some time. It was negative 5.1 on our last show, so a little bit less negative than it was a couple of weeks ago. The bit skew, so what's going on out there, that's Simon's measure for the rolling kind of 30-day skew in Bitcoin. That's pretty much unchanged from this time last week. It was a 96.3 on our last show, 96 today. So kind of unched there. And in terms of open interest, let's look at the calls first. The calls out there on Deribit, which is, of course, the leading crypto derivatives venue. 127,000 contracts open. It's up about 10,500 from this time last week. And the puts at about 77,000, down about 2,500 from this time last week. So the calls are still outpacing the puts by about 50,000 contracts. Not quite the 2-to-1 that it usually is, but still a hefty amount of interest in the calls out there. Mr. Bill, this has kind of been a frequent refrain now. If we do see a spike in Bitcoin volatility, it is fairly short-lived, and we're seeing kind of the OI kind of hanging out at around similar levels to what we've seen before. Anything surprising to you out there in those numbers so far, sir?
Not really, Mark. Honestly, it seems like we're in this crossroads because, again, if Bitcoin if I look at Bitcoin as an asset class, like I do, growth, value, dollar, foreign currencies, I mean, we seem to be kind of in this crossroads where the dollar is, making all-time highs. Fixed income got annihilated, in the last year to date in 2022. But growth as an asset class also got hit very hard, and it seems to have kind of put in a bottom. I mean, it just seems like things are turning around. So I'm not too surprised with the potential protection, like maybe by hedge fund managers or people protect to the upside of Bitcoin. Because honestly, I think, I know I'm going to probably regret saying this, but I think the downside is, I think that it's the in, right? I mean, we're seeing the CBOE option skew kind of get a little bit flat. We're seeing the VIX kind of middle of the range. 10-year rates popped up to 3.4, maybe 3.35, I think, and maybe pulling back. Inflation seems to be diminishing. We have, energy, high grade copper, all the metals, lumber, everything seems to be pulling back on what I would say was that inflation scare about a year ago. So if that's true, and I'm not saying inflation is transitory, I'm just saying things seem to be slowing down, we could be in for a really upside surprise because my entire newsfeed is doom, gloom, recession, depression, end of the world. And what does the market usually do when everybody's leaning one way? Usually goes the other way. So I'm kind of expecting a massive upside surprise. And I'm not just talking my book here, Mark. I really mean it. I mean, I really think that there's something interesting going on. And I'm just saying there's interesting stuff going on.
Wow, a massive upside surprise. I didn't see that one coming, Mr. Bill. You always got a surprise in your back pocket for us here on the crypto rundown here. Let's go keep going on here to the open interest right now, see how things are shaping up from an expiration perspective. And the front month, July, is dominating the tape right now with 61,000 contracts open. It's up about 13,000 contracts from our last show. No surprise there. The front month usually takes the top spot. And given the fact we have been moving a little bit out there, it's not surprising people want to pile into nearer dated contracts. Number 2 is September, 52,000 contracts, up about 3,000 from this time last week, and bringing up the rear. December, 36,000 contracts, up 5,500 from this time last week. Let's get on out to the strikes. Where are folks lining up? What are the top 5 positions in Bitcoin options right now? Number 5, we've got the 24,000 strike. That's an interesting strike. That's got 8,500 contracts open. It's up about 1,200 from this time on our last show. Number 4, the 15,000 strike, 9,400 contracts. Didn't get too far from that not too long ago. That's up about 1,000 from this time 2 weeks ago. Number 3, the 20,000 strike, 12,100 contracts open there. It's up about 1,200 from this time last week, or 2 weeks ago, I should say. Number 2, the 30,000 strike has 13,200 contracts open. It's up about 1,100. And number 1 is still the 25,000 strike with nearly 15,000 contracts open. That's 14,700 to be precise. It's up about 3,400 contracts from this time last week. So a lot more, dare I say it, relevant strikes dominating the top 5 in Bitcoin these days, even a 15,000 strike, which is kind of interesting. Not too long ago, certainly towards the end of last year, beginning of this year, we saw nothing but, 60,000 plus strikes up there. So the fact that we're seeing more down to earth strikes is perhaps a good sign for what's going on out there. In terms of action, the busiest day over the past couple of weeks was on July 7th. They did about 16,300 contracts. Not a ton. We've seen days of 46,000 easily back in May, so not quite there. It's been kind of a quiet period, but then again, it is July, so it's not usually a rock'em sock'em period. Let's get on out to CME land, see if they have any numbers going on out there. And it's kind of the same story out there, kind of a quiet July couple of weeks out there as well. The big Bitcoin options, they did 137 contracts on Friday. That's actually not bad. I've mentioned on the show recently, it seems like a couple of funds, maybe the fact that Bitcoin has just sold off so much, this contract isn't as intimidating as it once was from an overall just notional value perspective. Certainly a lot cheaper than when it was 60,000 for Bitcoin. Or maybe the fact that some funds just decided to start playing in the options. Either way, we're seeing more paper, 137 contracts going up on Friday. That doesn't sound like much, but that used to be a whole week's worth of volume, if not more. So that's not bad. The OI 3,500, that's down about 1,000. So that has come off a little bit. The futures, about 11,000 going up on Friday. The OI down about 1,000 to 13,200. So not a ton of action there. Mr. Bill, I know last time you and I chatted, you were still very much in the Greyscale camp. You weren't playing around with the CME futures, but I think we had chatted at the time about Bito, and you hadn't really had a chance to dive into it, but you said you're going to look into it. Since we chatted with you last, sir, have you had a chance to look at the old ProShares Bito, sir, and what are your thoughts?
Actually, I did, Mark, based on our conversation, and I think I feel comfortable, perhaps allocating new clients, to this space. I still think that the SEC is under a tremendous amount of pressure to approve the Greyscale Bitcoin Trust as an ETF, because Greyscale just hired a suite of the top attorneys that were involved in the White House, are I'm going to call them connected or centers of influence, to initiate and launch a lawsuit against the Securities and Exchange Commission. And we have another 1 or 2 countries have already approved spot Bitcoin ETFs. And it is interesting, Mark, because where else except in the United States and with Bitcoin do we not have a primary spot product, but we have this derivatives traded on an exchange? You can go to the Board of Trade and you can do cash corn, cash wheat. There's you can take delivery of the products if you want. Like, that's what makes arbitrage. And there was, I think, an incredible deluge of letters to the SEC when they were going to vote on it again at the beginning of July. Maybe I don't remember if it was 17,000 people sent letters, public letters to the SEC, or it was 75,000. It was just a big number. So again, I'm going to kind of hang my hat that we will get a spot Bitcoin ETF, and I think it will be the Greyscale product. But let's just say I'm wrong. All right. So then we have to go elsewhere. And that would be, I think I'd feel a little bit more comfortable, trading Bito. But either way, the question for me is, would I rather enjoy owning a closed-end fund, trading at a 30% discount to net asset value, or would I rather own something for net asset value? And of course, being a value shopper, right? Call it what you will. I would prefer to do that because I'm kind of like arbitraging myself if I don't. So I still like the Greyscale Trust. They still, the first ones that brought us to the dance. They're very innovative. They're taking this serious, and there just seems to be a little bit of crack in the hull of the SEC. And I say this with reverence to the SEC because investor protections are necessary. But this battle between the SEC and Ripple seems to be leaning more pro Ripple. And so if that's true, then maybe Ripple really is the first mover adoption lawsuit. And once that goes, maybe then the SEC will approve Bitcoin. But I'm grasping at straws here, Mark. I don't have a lot to hang my hat on. I really don't. There's not a lot of play. My new favorite, though, is MSTR, MicroStrategy, but we could talk about that later in the show.
I knew you always had one in your back pocket. But I'm kind of with you. I have warmed up to Bito as well. When it first launched, I was in the camp of, oh my God, this thing's going to get dragged down by the drag and everything else, and it's going to underperform. And we have not seen that. We have seen it's pretty close. It's only been like 1.5% or maybe 2% underperformance. So the drag, the negative roll yield hasn't impacted it anywhere near, I think, the degree everyone thought. So I'm much more comfortable thinking about Bito. Plus, of course, it has options, which is nice. It will be interesting to see with your Greyscale what happens to that discount, right? If they do approve. That's what everyone, I think, is banking on, right? They're piling into this thing, hoping that they get a nice 30% pop when the ETF is approved, right?
Right. Well, that too. And don't forget, these closed-end funds, the closed trusts, they ebb and flow with emotional optimism and pessimism. And again, you've heard me talk about this before. If it's true, if this stock to flow model is correct, which forecasts the future price, then we should be at about 109,000 per Bitcoin token by the end of this year. That's what the graph and that's what the data suggests. We have, 9 of the 21 million Bitcoin that are potentially released in the economy of Bitcoin. We have like 19,165 already spoken for. So we're not talking about a lot of supply left in this, this deflationary currency. If Bitcoin goes according to the model, the stock to flow ratio, am I going to care whether GBTC goes from 13 to 75 and not 100? Is that really going to be a deal breaker for me? Because again, once optimism again comes back into the space, we may see GBTC trade at a premium to spot. It could be trading at $130 a share rather than 100 $109 if Bitcoin goes where it's forecasted. So, you got to pick your battles, and there really wasn't any options. There weren't any. I say options. There weren't anything else really to get into for Bitcoin when I first met it in the RIA space. So I'm glad that Bito is here. I'm glad that the Pro shares are here. I'm glad that we even have an inverse Bitcoin ETF, which, wow, isn't that interesting? From Bitcoin goes from 63,000 to 18, and now we come out with an inverse fund. Like that's
it would be nice to have that a few months ago. Yeah,
kind of contrarian if he asked me, like, okay, why now?
I like it, and why now indeed, as we head right on into the altcoin universe.
It's time to move beyond Bitcoin and find out what's moving the rest of the crypto marketplace. It's time to boldly venture into the altcoin universe.
All right, everybody, let's do it. Let's see what's going on in the altcoin universe. Let's start out breaking down the top 10 in crypto land by market cap. Number 10, it's good old Dogecoin. Ever since the big meltdown of the quote-unquote algorithmic stablecoins, we have seen Dogecoin kind of holding on to that number 10 spot now. Dogecoin coming into today's show at about $8.5 billion. That's pretty light, but that's enough to break into the top 10 in crypto now in the height of crypto winter 2.0, 3.0. I've lost track of which number this is. Number 9, we have Solana, $12.25 billion. Number 8, Cardano, a little bit over $15 billion. Number 7, XRP, $15.7 billion. Bill referenced them earlier, the ongoing dance they have with the SEC. Will that ever be resolved? Who knows? It seems like it's been trending in Ripple's favor for quite a while now, but I don't read much into those tea leaves anymore because they've been saying that forever. Number 6 is Binance. We got like $17.6 billion. Number 5, good old BNB right behind it at about $38 billion. So quite a jump from 6 to 5. Pretty much double. You're talking nearly $18 billion to about $38 billion for number 5. So a big chasm between the top 5 and the bottom 5 here. Number 4, we've got USD Coin, $55.5 billion. Number 3, Tether, $66 billion. Number 2, it's ETH, $139 billion. And number 1, looking pretty meager, is Bitcoin, $392.75 billion. Man, you could add up Bitcoin and ETH, their entire market cap, and that wouldn't even buy you half of Bitcoin not too long ago. Wow, intriguing stuff, but that's where we are right now, listeners. Speaking of where we are right now, ETH coming into showtime, 11:52. Looking a little bit more robust. It broke down. It was about 1208 on our last show, so we're down about 55 handles from them 2 weeks ago. Of course, we dipped down to a little bit below, right around the 1,000 level, not a little bit below it actually. So we had quite the range, and the high was pretty much 1258 or so. That was back on July 7th. So I had a couple of hundred handle range out there. Mr. Bill, I know you like to watch ETH as well. What's been catching your eye out there in the number 2 crypto asset these days?
Well, again, I see, Ethereum, like the rest of the tokens, being pulled down in sentiment. I mean, the high in Ethereum was around 5,000, I think, the all-time high. We're seeing this race to supplant and replace Ethereum as the big, I call it operating system, as the product of DeFi, the billions and billions and billions of Ethereum that was locked up in total value lock. I think TVL is the term that they use in the DeFi world. And so I think, again, just like Bitcoin and the other cryptocurrencies, Ethereum has not been protected from the negative downside sentiment. Still, it is my number 2 token. I mean, I think it's everybody's number 2 token. When I look at Ethereum and the Greyscale trust, that too trades at a relatively big discount. The chart pattern looks interesting. Looks like, again, maybe possibly bottoming, down in this range. But again, I think we're at a crossroads. People are holding their breath and they're waiting for the crypto winter to get through and for prices to resume their beautiful upward parabolic rally. And so, it's just interesting, Mark, that we continue to see the industry grow. I mean, every single day there's some news of a country, an organization, the Bank of International Settlements, permitting member banks to own a 1% position in Bitcoin using their reserve assets. Like, wow, like it wasn't that long ago they would have easily, said something negative to that. We're seeing more and more conversation in digital assets as central bank digital currencies. And also what I think a newspaper article came out today, that there has to be interoperability between all these cryptocurrencies, these the central bank digital currencies. What is that going to look like? Is it going to be on Ethereum blockchain? Is it going to be on like Solana? Is it going to be Chainlink? So, Mark, the jury is still out. Again, this is nascent, new technology. We don't really know where this is going to go, but Ethereum and Bitcoin are still the 2 big elephants in the room. And you probably just got to have some of that in your portfolio. It's just because if you believe in the industry, you got to believe in Ethereum.
You got to have some ETH, says Mr. Bill. I like it. Let's go out here to the vol, the average vol out here right now. A little bit north of 86, about 86.6. Actually, that's down from about 94.5 on our last show 2 weeks ago. So ETH following the same vol trajectory as its bigger sibling Bitcoin there, which is lower. Skew-wise, a similar story there as well. Still negative, but less so. Last show was negative 7.5. Coming into this show, negative 4.5. So up about 3 points, but still in the bearish trajectory. Let's go out to the OI, see what's going on out there. Over 2 million calls open on Deribit right now, about 2.04 million. That's up about a couple 100,000, about 210,000 contracts more it was this time last week. The puts are at about 703,000, it's up 114,000. So the calls are outpacing the puts by more than 2 to 1 in ETH right now, which is very interesting. In terms of action, it wasn't the most action-packed couple of weeks. It was 165,000 contracts was the busiest day. That was July 7th. So that's a pale shadow of what we saw just not too long ago back in May, 461,000 contracts. So nothing close to that. It's been kind of a quiet couple of weeks. We were off for the holiday. It was a shortened holiday week out there. So not in the crypto space, but in most of the rest of the markets. So not surprising that the vol numbers wouldn't exactly be blowing the doors off out there. Let's get on out to the overall top positions. What are the top 5 positions in ETH options right now? Number 5, this is a newcomer. This is not one we have seen before. This is the 1,000 strike. Interesting. That's 109,000 contracts. That's a newcomer to the top 5. Again, it makes sense. It's pretty much where we're hanging out right now. It's just we haven't seen ETH really reflect the current trading environment as much as it has been more leaning towards the upside. And that the rest of the top 5 is still pretty much there. Number 4 is the 10,000 strike that has 118,000 contracts open. It's up about 2,000 from this time last week. Number 3, the 3,500 strike has 133,000 contracts open. It's up about 6,000 from this time last week. Number 2, the 5,000 strike. It has 166,000 contracts open. It's up 18,000 from this time last week. And number 1 remains the 4,000 strike with 181,000 contracts opened, up about 23,000 contracts from this time a couple of weeks ago. So number 1, still the ever optimistic 4,000 strike, but starting to see some more relevant stuff percolating in there, especially at number 5 there, the 1,000 strike. Are you guys loaded up on any 1,000 strike options? Hit us up. Let us know, listeners. I'd be curious. In terms of CME ETH, not a heck of a lot going on out there. We had the big ETH futures, nearly 4,000 going up last Friday, 3,800 going up on Friday, actually, and the OI is 3,800 as well. So that's pretty much hanging out there, par for the course. The micro futures, we saw about 20,000 going up last Friday, and the OI is down up about 1,000 to about 46,000 out there. So that's kind of going to do it for ETH. I'm going to break down some of these other altcoin really quickly here, Mr. Bill. But before I do that, you mentioned you have some other interesting altcoin. You always have 1 or 2 in your back pocket. What are you keeping an eye on in the altcoin universe outside of ETH, sir?
Well, again, what I had said, I think at the last show, Mark, is that there is, if we're truly moving to a central bank digital currency, if we're truly moving to this type of, SWIFT payment system that the entire world is going to use, the entire globe, I would think that there has to be some kind of standard, right? We have standards in engineering and airplane parts, everything is called, ISO 2000, or I think it's ISO 2000, right? The engineering standard that creates this tolerances for parts and standardization across all kind of machinery. Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, has the same thing. It's the ISO 20022 standard. And of that, it's XRP, Ripple, XLM, XDC, Algo, ALGO, and IOTA, the Internet of Things. So those tokens themselves have self-proclaimed themselves that they're working and trying to comply with a economic and computer code standard. So I'm kind of leaning, again, any new holdings have to be in those tokens. And like I had mentioned to you before, I find it kind of interesting. We were talking about arbitrage, and that is if you were to buy micro strategies, it's really interesting. I posted this on Twitter about a week ago that they currently own $2.6 billion of Bitcoin, but the market cap of all their shares is 2.28 billion. So if you wanted to buy micro strategies, liquidate the whole company and liquidate all the Bitcoin, you'd make about $130 million. So talk about arbitrage. Talk about buying things under value. Again, I'm being a little sarcastic, a little facetious, but not really. Because again, if Bitcoin is technology and technology is growth as an asset class, and we've seen growth on the low end of the range looking like it's turning positive, I would say this would be an interesting play. In addition to owning the pure tokens, like we've talked about for a couple of years, where in the universe of options trading or stocks can you lean a portfolio? And it would be MicroStrategy or maybe MicroStrategy put options. I mean, it's just something that we could talk about.
See what else is going on out here in the world of all things altcoin. We mentioned Ripple. By the way, it sounds like you're leaning towards this Ripple thing is going to get settled. It seems like we've been hearing that forever, doesn't it, Bill? But it seems like you're leaning in that camp now.
Well, I'm saying that eventually it's going to be settled, and what I'm saying is that they seem to be gaining a little bit of traction. It may seem that the SEC could potentially have been a little bit unfair in their treatment. I mean, I'm not sure that's an accurate way of saying it, but it just seems as though XRP seems to be winning more than it's losing lately. And while it's almost off the radar from my perspective because people are tired of hearing about it. I'm just wondering out loud, if XRP gets settled, would that be a huge boost for the Greyscale, legal action against the SEC, or even the SEC's own perception of cryptocurrency is a security? Like, would it burst open the dam and bring things back into bull market? Or, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm just saying that it's just interesting that there's so much conversation going on in cryptocurrencies in the SEC with securities that I think XRP and how they're kind of making these small wins, it seems to kind of not get that much news.
Indeed. Let's see what kind of news we're getting in XRP right now. Coming into showtime was about a 32.40. It was a 35.60 2 weeks ago, so down a little over 3 cents. So not looking too great out there in XRP, but again, it's kind of been hanging out in this range for a while. A Dogecoin, number 10 in our top 10 listeners. It was 7.2 cents on our last show 2 weeks ago, 6.4 today. So down almost a full penny out there. Litecoin, 56.14 2 weeks ago, 50.78, so down about 5.36. Let's run a few others here really quickly, then we'll get out of here, give my COVID-addled voice a rest. 2 weeks ago, 48 and a half for pretty much Cardano. Today's show, 44.60, so down about 4 cents or so. And then we have Polkadot, 7.88 2 weeks ago, 6.85 today, so down pretty much a buck. Solana, 38.87, 35.43 today, down about 3.44. Let's go to good old Shiba as well. 2 weeks ago, it was 0.000011. Coming into today's show, 0.000011. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Crypto Rundown. I want to thank Mr. Bill, a.k.a. Bill Ulivieri from Cenacle Capital Management, the man who is easy for me to say, bridging the gap between traditional investments and digital assets. Mr. Bill, if folks want to join you on that journey, they want to bridge the gap between these two worlds, where should they go? What should they do?
They should visit our website at cenaclecapital.com, and they can feel free to reach out to us, sending us an email through our form handler. Or, of course, you can always text the word blockchain to 22828. That's blockchain to 22828. And, I send out a newsletter every, 3 weeks or so. It went from a week to every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks. And so, we're going to put out our next blockchain advisor newsletter. And I think, honestly, the more this stuff, the more these cryptocurrencies begin to be treated holistically as regular asset classes. I'm going to talk about the 10-year bond yields being now below 3, like 2.995 US dollar. All these things affect the prices of crypto. So I think investors need to not just look at our favorite tokens, but look at things a little bit more holistically by taking the entire broad market into consideration. And that's what we hope to address, those kind of topics. And of course, we're free to answer anybody's questions. So CenacleCapital.com. CenacleCapital.com is the place to go. We got to go on out of here. That's going to do it for our broadcast day today. We'll be back again tomorrow for all you pro folks, coming in at 11 a.m. Central, 12 p.m. Eastern for our pro Q&A. We've got Steve Sosnick, the Chief Options Strategist from Interactive Brokers, joining us in the hot seat. It's been a while since you've joined us, so that should be interesting. Get your questions started now. If you haven't joined us in the hot seat yet, you haven't joined us for the pro, theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go. You can participate in all this one and all future pro Q&As, options oddities on Fridays, the giveaways, the live streams. Of course, you get access to the pro podcast feed. So all the stuff you've missed, it's all available for you there as well. Theoptionsinsider.com/pro. So we'll see you back here for all your pro folks tomorrow, Wednesday, Boot Camp Options Playbook Radio. Thursday, your double dose of TWIFO and the Option Block. Friday, volatility views and options oddities. And back again next Monday, another episode of the Crypto Rundown. Stay safe out there, everybody.
This program is brought to you by Genesis Volatility, also known as GVol, home of institutional-grade crypto options analytics. Whether you're trading CeFi options or DeFi options, cryptocurrencies move. Use GVol Analytics to analyze implied volatility, model realized volatility, structure positions, and unlock alpha. For more information, visit gvol.io. That's GVOL.io. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.